Just after midnight, panic filled a quiet Utah home. A wife frantically called 911. Her husband was not breathing. Kouri Richins was pronounced dead. Toxicology would later reveal fentanyl at extremely high levels. Investigators began retracing the final hours. Kouri Richins said she made him a drink. Detectives allege she obtained fentanyl weeks earlier and may have tried to poison him before. As the investigation deepened, so did scrutiny of finances, property disputes, and life insurance policies. Public sympathy shifted dramatically when Kouri appeared on television discussing the children's book she wrote about grief. Then she was arrested. But now Kouri stands charged with the murder of her husband, the father of her 3 boys. Tonight, all the big moments from the courtroom as this high-profile trial plays out live on Court TV. I'm Vinny Politan. Great to have you with us here on Closing Arguments. Another big day out in Utah in the case against Kouri Richins. I want to talk about Eric first, though. And I think this is an important fact in all of this, that he was a loving father. And I think that's a big, big part of the underlying story on how we ended up where we are right now. 3 little boys. And let me tell you, when a dad's got little boys running around the house, that's where he wants to be. And Eric did not want to do anything that would interfere with his ability to be there for his children. And be a dad, be a hands-on dad, watch them grow, teach them what they need to be taught, play catch, whatever it was, Eric wanted to be there for his children. Remember that fact, because there were, in this case, allegations of infidelity. And we've heard through testimony that back in 2019, Kouri was concerned that Eric was spending some time with a woman at work. Now, she has a prenup, right? So that's sort of the backdrop for this. Right? Oh, he's having an affair, just leave him. Well, she was concerned. She was concerned. I don't know how concerned she was about the kids, but she was very concerned about the financial implications of her not being married to Eric. And we've talked about why, right? Like, Eric has a very, very successful business. We've shown you their house, beautiful house. They take trips. They're living a very good life in a beautiful part of the country. So you don't want to give that up. Why would you want to give that up? Well, there's a prenup, so you'd have to give up some of it. I don't know how much. But then the infidelity takes a turn in all of this, because we learn, and as we saw on the witness stand today, Kouri Richins had a lover. Not back in 2019, I don't think, but at the time that her husband tragically died. That's a bad fact, right? When you're accused of murdering him and you're seeing someone else and professing your love to that person, and you've already discussed concerns about finances connected to having a divorce back in 2019, you still have the prenup. Oh, okay. Now we've got some building blocks here on what's going through the mind of Kouri Richins. I can't really get divorced, but I don't want to be with him. I have this new man, I really love him, but I don't think he has the money that Eric has, and I want to live the life that I'm living now. Plus, I've got this whole fledgling, floundering, flipping business that has put me into $1 million of debt, which, you know, she probably thought that's probably going to carry with me if I get divorced. You know, I don't know how much of a split of assets there were going to be, and I don't know if the debt that she created was going to be split or she was going to carry that with her. Then we get to something else that prosecutors say happened and that Eric believes happened, which was Valentine's Day. A Valentine's Day poisoning where his wife, who never, ever brings him, like, lunch, delivers him. She didn't make it, but she brought it, bought it, and brought it. And what prosecutors believe and what Kouri Richins, we believe, thought, she laced it with some poison. Because after he had this lovely lunch that his wife delivered to him at work on Valentine's Day, he got really, really ill. So now think about this. if Eric was spending some time with another woman, I don't know if he was, things are not great at home, and you think your wife is trying to kill you, why would you stay together? But they did stay together. Why? Go back to the premise of this whole thing I've been talking about. It's about the kids. 3 young boys. He didn't want to do anything to risk losing access and being there for his kids. Probably didn't want them to go through and grow up in a broken home, and wanted to give it a shot. Wanted to see if he could make this thing work. But it didn't. He died of fentanyl poisoning, and that's what this case is all about. Did he take it himself, or did Kouri Richins poison his drink the night he died? Now, let's get back to the lover. Robert Grossman is his name, and today he took the stand, and let me tell you, I don't think he wanted to be there, and I think he still loves Kouri. Take a look.
Did, sir, there come a time when your relationship turned romantic?
Yes.
About when?
Same time, just before driving to Utah.
So right about the outset of COVID?
Right.
During that time that you were romantically involved with Miss Richins, did you love her?
Yes.
During that time, did you feel that she loved you?
Yeah. I have a tendency of going head over heels, though, probably more than most, so, you know, I think she did.
Did you exchange text messages with Kouri Richins?
Yes.
From the time you moved to Utah, about how often?
Daily, unless she was mad at me, or vice versa.
He loved her. He still loves her. Let's bring in our think tank. Joining us live in studio tonight, criminal defense attorney, former assistant state attorney, Miami-Dade County, and former assistant DA in Atlanta, Darrell Cohen. Also with us, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Noah Pines, and criminal defense investigator Charles Middlestat. What do you think? He still loves her. He doesn't want to be there.
I've seen people less uncomfortable when they're being tortured than he was on that witness stand. He obviously did not want to be there. He appeared to be telling the truth, and he wanted her to have loved him. We'll see.
Does she love him? You think she loved him?
You're asking me, Vinny?
Yeah, like because she's accused of murder. Is a woman like that capable of love? We got all guys here. We could talk about the women.
First, I thought you were going to start singing, you know, "Stay Together for the Kids" from Blink-182, but I don't think that he thinks she loved him. I mean, you saw his answer. He's like,
What does that tell us about Kouri?
She's a player, right? Probably a manipulator. I mean, that's what you would say. I mean, you basically gave your closing argument tonight of what the prosecutor might say, but it sounds like she, you know, is with her husband and then is with this guy too, who he didn't seem like that charming on the stand. Did he?
She's transactional, right? I mean, but frankly, they both are. Now, you can say his transaction or his desires may be more genuine in terms of he goes and sees a divorce lawyer, he gets a reality check on what that could look like as far as visitation and not having access to his children, and he apparently backs off. But his desire is to continue to have access to his kids. Her desire, allegedly, is to have access to his money.
Yeah.
Right? They both want something that's different. One is arguably much more honorable.
The thing about this whole case, you know, is that we've seen evidence or allegations that Kouri has researched prisons, you know, rich people's prisons, and it almost seems like she's making some sort of a calculation here on, like, is it worth the risk? Should I actually go forward with this? There's nothing that I've seen from her that makes you feel warm and fuzzy. Does that put her in the place where she needs to get up on the stand to establish that? Because everything that we're seeing and hearing just makes her seem very distant, very cold. Even this man is pouring his heart out for her. Yeah, he's the other man, he's the lover, but he loves her and she's not giving it back to him.
All of us defense lawyers say, don't take the stand. In this case, she probably needs to take the stand, but if she takes the stand, she's going to be sliced and diced, and the cross-examination will be something to behold.
Is there a chance, though, that she could come across as likable?
I don't think so. I mean, you're right, Vinny. She looks very cold and hard in her how she looks in court. But in the pictures, she's not like that. I mean,
Right, that's what I'm wondering. If we have the one making the goofy faces and the smile.
They have her dressed wrong. I mean, 100% they have her dressed and styled wrong for this case, in my opinion.
I disagree, by the way. I would have her dressed exactly that way, looking conservative. Oh my God, I'm scared. And having that look and whatever makeup she's wearing, I think is good. But that's what makes life.
Let's take a listen to some more here. This is an interesting question that Kouri is asking of her lover. It's not a common question. I don't know if you at home or the folks here have ever had anyone ask them this question, but take a listen.
Sir, did there come a time after Eric Richins' death when you met up with Kouri?
Yes.
Do you recall the first time?
Yes. But
Did she ask you a question about killing?
she did ask me yeah.
What's her did she ask?
She asked if I had ever killed anybody.
And was that specific to killed anybody while serving in Iraq?
Right.
Did you respond?
I did.
Did she ask a follow-up question?
Yes.
Sir, what was that follow-up question?
She asked me how it made me feel or something along those lines. And then I answered her.
In movies, I've seen scenes like that. Is it you taking it like it's kind of unusual conversation to have? He was in the military, though. I get that. But Eric has just died. Like,
I mean, I could see, like, when you're getting to know somebody and wanting to know their story, asking it, the timing is definitely a little suspect, right? That would be a bad time to ask that after your husband died, and obviously the state is going to say, well, of course she was feeling guilty, and that's why she's asking him.
And I think that our witness would have preferred to be walking barefoot on hot coals rather than being on that witness stand.
yeah. But, I mean, my guess is he doesn't want her convicted, but he's got to tell the truth.
If you tell the truth, you don't have to remember what you said.
Yeah.
I mean, if she walks, is he going to continue a relationship with her, Vinny?
Possibly.
I mean, come on.
He would, but he won't be drinking
I don't know.
anything
It looks like
unsupervised or eating
he
any
still
food.
loves her.
I mean, look, you can read into a lot of things. It's circumstantially, it's not a great fact that the timing is so bad, but that's not an unusual question to ask of a veteran, right, who served
Right.
in theater and in combat. And just like the appearance thing, I mean, look, she's fighting for her life. Let's, for the sake of argument, assume that she's factually innocent. Imagine the pressure that's on her. She's not going to look like she did in those pictures, right? So to say she doesn't look warm and all that, I don't know that that's a reasonable expectation for her to come off as someone who's warm and genuine when literally the state's trying to put her away for life.
Yeah, that's a cold look, though. Hey, let's do this. Let's listen to, we have some of the text messages. It gives you a better flavor for what is happening between Kouri Richins and her lover, Robert. Let's take a listen to these. And this is like our producers reading it for you. Take a listen.
If I was divorced right now and asked you to marry me tomorrow, would you? I just want to lay on the couch and cuddle you, watch a murder documentary and snuggle. I want you today, every day, not just sexually, but physically, mentally. Every day when I wake up, I do want a future together. I do want you. Figure life out together. If you could just go away and you could just be here, life would be so perfect. I love you. I have a crazy dream. You quit your job. I divorce and come up with millions and millions. We buy Midway and live in the guest house and rent out the huge house as a big event center. $15,000 a day like they charge down the road. Maybe $12,000 to stay competitive, and we will just run the event center as our daily job and hang out every day, raise some kids, have a little farm. Deal? To me, you're worth millions a year. I'm honored to be your friend, best friend actually, lover, go-to. Life is gonna be different, I promise. You're one hell of a patient person. I hate your hard days. I wish I could be there to turn them around for you. Can I try Friday? Give me a few days. Hang in there until then, please. Love you.
Now do we know why she loved him? Why he loved her? Like, she's sending these kind of notes.
Well, she was a good-looking woman. She was the unattainable fruit, which he was taking part of. And he saw an opportunity to be with her, but I don't think he had anything to do with fentanyl.
No, I don't think he did either. I think she was sending out feelers there to see if he might kind of volunteer to do something.
Well,
or am I just reading between the lines
that.
there? You didn't read that?
No, I'll tell you what. The sense that I got, what I was left with. I mean, clearly, what man wouldn't want to hear that from a beautiful woman, right? That's all nice stuff. But the part about being patient, to me, I got the sense that she was feeling a lot of pressure to start this life with him, that she was perhaps feeling like he may lose, interest and lose patience and move on. Maybe because of what he was going through, it sounds like there may be some trauma associated with his service and so forth. But I sensed she was feeling pressure to keep him engaged and invested in this relationship.
Yeah, I feel bad for this guy. Unfortunately, he's seeing someone. She was married, the husband died, she's charged with murder, so he's going to be front and center in all of this, and an important witness. What do you think the jury's thinking of this guy?
I think they like him because to me, he is the epitome of truth. I think he's being honest with what he says and how he says it. I always, as you know, pay a lot of attention to body language, and his body language tells me he is absolutely being tortured as he's on that witness stand.
What do you think?
Or they're thinking he could have been next.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole...
Would he be next, though? Because I don't think he has the money.
All the text messages of, like, let's not live in reality, let's live in this fantasy. All those were like fantasy. We're going to leave. Like, well, what about your kids? We're going to live in this house and rent this place for $15,000 a day. It's all fantasy world. Yeah. None of that's reality.
I get the sense that she was clearly the leader in this, had the more influence in this relationship, right? She was the one that had the potential windfall, that, was married to a guy with money, that mentally probably had her life together more so than he did, if he's suffering from some type of PTSD or whatever issues he was dealing with that she alluded to. But I get the sense he's sort of following along and just trying to hang on for dear life in this relationship.
And the relationship with her husband is probably almost the opposite, because he's the one with the successful business. He's sort of the one that swept her off her feet and rescued her from her job at Home Depot and put her into this amazing life that she was living, that she was able to live. The other thing I took from that, the whole move into Midway and rent out the big house, that gets back to her believing that she is just this real estate genius. Like, she's going to be so successful in doing this, and it's just so easy because she knows what she's doing. And she's like millions of dollars in debt.
She's so smart that she's smarter than everyone else who she loses money because of.
No, it's that whole fantasy. She lives in a fantasy world.
Detached from reality. All right, the reality is we've got more to get to. When we come back, okay, so there's infidelity and there's sex and lies. Well, there's also some life insurance as well. We'll talk about that. Plus, coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, Nancy Guthrie is abducted. The media gets a ransom note. Then the family says they will pay. Then nothing happens. Why not? Tonight, we investigate.
This is the story of the Richins. Eric, a father of 3, met an untimely end, and Kouri, his widow, wrote a children's book on grief.
She's also charged now with his murder.
He was faced with betrayal and terror.
I know her innocence.
Is their story a tragic romance?
Or a twisted tale of grief?
The truth will come out.
The Grief Author Murder Trial. Live coverage weekday mornings, 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
They felt the company was worth about $4 million at the time. And so we put $2 million of life insurance on each of them. Eric would own the policy on Kouri, Cody, and Cody would own a policy on Eric. The beneficiary had been changed to Kouri Richins.
Uh-oh. So Eric Richins and his partner had this business, right? And they had insurance policies on each other. And basically what would happen is if one of them died, the other would collect the insurance and then, I guess, buy out the business and then own the business wholly, so they wouldn't have to go partners with the other one's spouse or family and try to run the business. So either partner, the surviving partner, would be able to control the business because they would be able to buy out the other half from the insurance policy payment that they had. But as you heard there, Eric's suddenly changed beneficiaries to Kouri, which was not the deal between Eric and his partner. Huh, why is that?
I'm hearing this circle.
Why is that?
Get tighter and tighter and tighter. Why? Because I need the money, because he's going to be gone. And I get the money. I'm going to be well off.
What is she worse at? Flipping houses or trying to make herself look innocent? Like, she's not good at either one of them.
Can both of those be true?
Was it that clean though on the insurance? I thought that the testimony was that it flipped around a couple of times, then flipped back to him. Was that not the case?
Yeah, but it was changed, and he didn't change it. Somehow it was changed to Kouri, unbeknownst to Eric or his partner. Like that, but that's the deal. Like,
right.
That's
the partner's the one that should be the most upset, right?
Yeah, but Eric should be. If Eric knew, he would have been pretty scared.
Well, he didn't know
that he had a target on his back at that moment.
You're assuming he didn't know.
Right.
Right. I mean, you basically said it was fact that he didn't know of any, but you don't know that he didn't know.
I didn't know that he didn't know, and he won't be able to testify about it either.
You gotta
because
know
somehow,
what you don't
some way,
know.
he got 5 times the lethal limit of fentanyl in his system after drinking a Moscow Mule prepared by his wife. Coincidence?
It's probably a reaction with the copper.
Yeah, exactly. It was the copper and the fentanyl together.
Moscow Mule.
Very, very deadly.
Yes.
Okay, now we've got another life insurance manager, Ann Coates is her name. She also testified. Let's take a listen.
So on June 14th, what is the question of Kouri?
The question was if the drug fentanyl was prescribed to Eric Richins, and that's important because the $50,000 accidental death benefit rider as well.
Excuse me, just want to say that extra $50,000 is on top of the $250,000 policy.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, continue. I'm sorry.
It provides an provision and an exclusion where the prescription would need to have been provided by a doctor and administered on the advice of a doctor in order to be payable.
And what does Kouri Richins say?
She said that the fentanyl was not prescribed, and she also added that she doesn't know how her husband got that.
The next day, Kouri Richins called again?
Yes.
Okay, and what was stated in that conversation?
It was the same thing that she provided us, that the drug was not prescribed.
Okay.
And that she doesn't know where it came from.
On June 21st, did she call again, asking about a status?
She did.
And what did you guys tell her?
We told her that the $250,000 claim was paid, but the most recent claim, the $100,000 claim, was still being reviewed.
Okay. And why was it still being reviewed?
That was a brand new policy, and so whenever we have a death that occurs within 2 years of the effective date of coverage, it becomes a contestable claim, which just means that we will review the application questions and the insured's medical history to be sure that the answers were accurately answered.
Because this was 1 month.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
Wait a minute, I didn't hear that. How long in advance of this was this policy purchased?
1 month. This is like a bad TV show at this point, right?
These are questions, these are calls she's making post-death.
Post-death.
Yeah,
right?
the calls are post-death,
Right.
so you want your money.
You can imagine that there's probably a bunch of bills that need to be paid, right? I mean, they have a pretty extravagant lifestyle.
Well, yes, but the biggest debt they had was from her business.
And you paid for the insurance, so it's your money.
It's your money, yeah.
Right, but imagine
Well, you
there's
took out
probably
the policy's taken a month before he died.
That's nothing unusual, right? Unless.
Yeah,
unless.
Well, I'm talking, I think I'm
planning.
referring more to the calls, the nature of her inquiry. I think those are not necessarily suspicious, right?
No, I don't find them suspicious. You want to know how do you get your money?
Correct.
Obviously,
the timing of the one of the
policies.
Right.
I think that's something a jury looks at that and they're like, you know,
Maybe
we've seen that movie.
A lawyer to make those calls. I mean, if you're going to kill your husband, allegedly, like maybe you try to insulate yourself a little bit and be like, you know what, I'm going to hire a lawyer to deal with the estate. Let them make the calls.
I'm smarter than that.
But a cop would tell you, what do you need a lawyer for if you're innocent?
Trust in the state's lawyer.
So which one is it?
State lawyer, right?
Not a criminal lawyer.
To figure out how to negotiate
go work
all
on
this.
the estate.
So at the end of the day, right, you're looking at all the things that are building up here. These are all very classic motives, right?
There's a lot of motive. There's a lot of opportunity in this case. As you know, Vinny, you don't need motive in a murder case. State doesn't have to prove motive. However, this is a case where there appears to be a lot of motive.
A lot of motive.
You have
and
money, you have specific questions about money, you have this boyfriend, you have, I want to run away with you and live this fantasy life. That's motive.
And there's the debt that is like creeping up on her, and it's like, he cut her off.
The
Eric
debt
cut her off.
presumably is both of theirs, right? It's marital debt at this point. So, I don't think you can...
think it's... Here's the issue. She was obsessed with this. I got to make it work. I can make it work. I just need more money. And she keeps borrowing against money that she already owes. Like she's borrowing money to pay back loans that she can't pay back. And it's just snowballing on her. She's taking out a home equity line without Eric even knowing it. She's sucking money from there. Eric cut her off. That was the whole thing. Eric, like, propped up her business for a little while, and then finally it got to the point where we can't sustain this. It's time to, walk away from it. Like, it's not going to work. But she wasn't having it. Like, she's popping the champagne bottles because she's so obsessed with buying this property because this is the big one. This is the big one. It's going to change my whole life.
She's a true
Always
believer.
going to be the big one.
And a terrible businesswoman.
Right.
But that doesn't make you a murderer. I mean, it sounds like she's an awful business person, and she was very much invested in her dream and in her, right? I mean, look, if we can separate these things objectively.
Right.
But
if he didn't
I
die,
suspect that the money the debt was joint debt.
Piece by piece.
He's married to her. That's his debt, too.
but she is also
Not
creating debt he doesn't
necessarily.
know
It depends
about.
on trust in a state's lawyer. It may not be that way.
Maybe not.
But what
I can see his motive to stop the bleeding.
I don't see one particular act. I see numerous piece-by-piece acts that make it a major act of murder.
Here's the problem for the defense, okay? They're going to have to explain how he died from fentanyl overdose. Not their burden, I understand that, I get it, but they're gonna have to try to give some sort of explanation in order to give reasonable doubt.
Yeah, if they had like a witness who could get up on the stand and say something like, oh yeah, Eric was telling me when he went down to Mexico, he purchased all these drugs. Like, that would be the perfect defense, right?
That wouldn't be from El Mencho, would it?
What?
That would be from El Mencho, who's now deceased also.
No. But if let's say, for instance, hypothetically, if there was a witness who would come into court and say, yeah, Eric told me that, because Eric did take a trip to Mexico, that when he went down there, he purchased some fentanyl. That would be great, right?
Well, not even purchasing fentanyl. You could purchase some other drug that's laced with fentanyl unknowingly, right? And
when you're down in Mexico.
Right.
Well, that would change the paradigm.
That would completely change this case. That would be like a star witness for the defense, right?
Yeah.
Right? Agreed?
Yeah.
Agreed?
100%.
You feel like I'm setting you up or something?
I know, there is a witness. There is a witness.
Because when we come back,
there is a
ladies
witness.
and gentlemen, we will find out about the walk the dog letter penned by Kouri Richins when in jail. And when you read it, it almost sounds like a script for a witness.
As you started to read this, you immediately saw that she was talking about something between her and her attorney, correct?
Correct.
But you continued to go on and read it?
Correct. So I scanned the document, and then fairly quick, she talks about basically what she's telling her brother to say.
Well, I understand that's what your interpretation of the document is, but let me back up a little bit. So when you come across documents that are privileged, do you typically go on and continue to read them?
They weren't marked as privileged.
When you come across documents about an individual's case that they've written?
We scan those documents, yes, to look for safety security threats.
So this was the search you're looking at of Kouri Richins' jail cell. She's locked up, waiting for her trial. And she had a book, and inside the book was an envelope, and inside the envelope was the so-called walk the dog letter. And that was a pretrial hearing where obviously the defense did not want this to be part of the trial, because depending upon how you interpret this letter, and I'll let you hear it in just a second, you could think that Kouri was trying to write a script for her brother to come into court and lie for her about Eric. So it's kind of consciousness of guilt stuff, and also shows that she is trying to potentially manipulate the system and a witness and demonstrate her dishonesty. But it was in an envelope that was labeled to her attorney at the time. At the time, I say, because that attorney's no longer representing her. For some reason, I don't know why, but she dropped out of the case shortly after all this happened. So let's take a listen to that letter read by one of our producers.
She wants to link Eric getting the drugs and pills from Mexico, so we need some kind of connection. Her private investigator is doing some research on the ranch cartel place Eric would stay at. Here's what I'm thinking, but you have to talk to Ronnie. He would probably have to testify to this, but it's super short, not a lot to it. He will need to talk to Sky at the meeting next week. Upon information and belief, just like they say, a year prior to Eric's death, Ronnie was over watching football one Sunday, and Eric and Ronnie were chatting about Eric's Mexico trips. Eric told Ronnie he gets pain pills and fentanyl from Mexico, from the workers on the ranch. But not to tell me, because I would get mad, because I always said he just gets high every night and won't help take care of kids. Ronnie should have texts from Eric talking about getting high as well. Eric told Ronnie he keeps them in an allergy pill bottle in his work truck so I wouldn't find them. Ronnie never told me about the conversation. Eric finally told me and asked if Carmen could get him some. Eric never wanted anyone to know he had an issue, especially get caught. He always wanted Kouri to go down for him. Reword this however he needs to make the point just to include it all. The connection has to be made with Mexico and the drugs. Ronnie will have the messages to prove Eric confided in him about getting high. He can be short and to the point, but it has to be done. When you talk to Ronnie about this, meet up with him in person. I worry sometimes your house and phone are bugged. Tell him I need him to do this. Bring me home, and then we will get those damn bitches. We're so close to the end. Let's push through. Have the conversation with Ronnie before he meets with Sky. Then tell him to tell Sky at the meeting about the conversation. Hang in there. We're almost there. Love you to the moon.
These are directions to get her brother to lie to her attorney and then all of a sudden create this great witness. This is amazing.
That's bad.
I have two thoughts.
But they have to be supported with these text messages.
Well, see, I have two thoughts.
Right?
Number one, it's privileged, and that bothers me on one hand. On the other hand,
to
her lawyer, what a wonderful confession. And it tells us her state of mind, tells us everything she has done and will likely do based upon what the letter Walk the Dog has to say.
Yeah. Now the text messages, go ahead.
I mean, she made several references to the fact that Ronnie would have these text messages to support all of this, right? So I don't think it's quite as nefarious as everybody's making it out to be.
I think the text messages are about going to Mexico. Because he does go to Mexico. We know Eric goes to Mexico. We know he goes to Mexico.
I got the impression that she was saying Ronnie's going to have text messages that will support this aspect, that this reality that he was getting high and buying, drugs at various places in Mexico and so on and so forth. So I don't think it's as cut and dry as.
Wouldn't though then that be, hey, tell Ronnie to give my lawyer the text messages where he said he was buying drugs from Mexico, period? I mean, that's all you'd have to say.
And why does she?
You wouldn't have to have this whole, do this, say it this way, every word it the way you want to. That's.
But in the letter, she's saying that I don't know. Make sure Kouri doesn't know any of this, right? Like Kouri doesn't even know about it, but Kouri's the one writing the letter about all this.
It's a secret.
Like that doesn't make sense.
None of this makes sense.
It just like how could you have another interpretation of that?
It's more fantasy. She's making this stuff up as she goes along.
I agree with Noah. She absolutely.
This is desperation.
It's desperation fantasy, and when you have desperate people, they do desperate things, and you can put your mind in another place, or so they say.
I can't get past this letter. Like once I read this letter, I'm like, okay, like would an innocent person? All right, look, maybe they do. Like maybe you've had a client who's 100% innocent, but wants to make sure that they're not convicted, so they're looking for some extra evidence that makes them look more innocent.
Or less guilty.
Or less guilty.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to be able to reread the letter, but I mean, to the extent
you want me to play it again?
I would agree with, no, I agree with no. I mean, the simple thing to do is I believe there's some text messages that exist on his phone that would.
Give my lawyer the text messages.
But
that's enough. That's it. Yeah. Done.
But we also don't know how she communicates. I don't know. Maybe she over-explains things. Maybe she's she's sitting in a cell with nothing better to do, and so.
But why does she have to tell Ronnie to do this? Like, wouldn't Ronnie know? Oh yeah, Eric told me about the fentanyl that he bought down in Mexico. Like, you wouldn't have to tell Ronnie what Ronnie knows.
You think it's nefarious that she had it in an envelope that said, like, confidential attorney-client, because she's hiding.
She's hiding it. She's hiding it. Yeah. And she's maybe trying to get the letter to her mother or her brother through her lawyer.
Would it still not be it's still confidential, would it not be? I mean, that would be like a client telling you something that just as an officer of the court, you may not be able to put them on the stand knowing they might perjure themselves, but they may have made a confession to you. You're not going to go help convict them.
But if she's writing a letter to somebody else, it's not attorney-client privilege.
Right. The letter's not to Scott. Sky Lazaro's the attorney.
Except the envelope says it is.
Yeah,
to
but the letter's not to Sky.
Right. I mean,
the letter is not to Sky. The letter is what to tell Sky. Like, if I was Sky, I'd be really angry with this because my own client is trying to put me in the middle of this whole crazy scheme that she's putting together here.
I'd retire as her lawyer, Matinal, ASAP now.
Yeah. Well, she's no longer represents her.
I know that.
Well, that's probably why.
I think so. She's got a great lawyer now too. But Sky was the original lawyer, and she was, really good in a lot of the hearings. Then this happened. And
Sky probably anticipates being a witness at some point.
Potentially, I guess, in all this. Unbelievable. So, does you believe she needs to testify?
I think she can't. Exactly. I think she needs to in order to maybe save herself. But if she does, she will be under the microscope at the greatest precision surgeon as a lawyer, will slice and dice her and will not give her any sutures.
She will not testify.
No way.
It's too much baggage. I don't think you can. I don't think she has the capacity to keep things straight.
Yeah, and I think the defense is going to try to continue to point the finger at Eric himself, that somehow he had back pain, so he did have some issues. Great job, great to see you. Daryl Cohen, No Pines, Charles Middlestat.
Can I say one thing? It's been an honor and a pleasure.
Absolutely. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, something else you need to know tonight, plus coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, Nancy Guthrie is abducted. Her daughter's car is seized. Then the sheriff clears the family but doesn't release the car. Why not? Tonight, we investigate.
This is the story of the Richins. Eric, a father of 3, met an untimely end, and Kouri, his widow, wrote a children's book on grief.
She's also charged now with his murder. He was faced with betrayal and terror.
I know her innocence.
Is their story a tragic romance?
Or a twisted tale of grief?
The truth will come out.
The Grief Author Murder Trial. Live coverage weekday mornings, 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Let's take a look at the big board. What do we have? A verdict. This is the case against Amish mother Ruth Miller, who drowned her 4-year-old son, then tried to harm her 3 teenage children by driving a golf cart into a lake with them on board. She pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity, opted for a bench trial, so the judge was going to make the decision. And there was no real trial or no opening statements, no witnesses called, no closing arguments, just witness statements and reports by psychiatrists and psychologists submitted to the court along with this body camera. And the judge made the decision. Let's take you inside the courtroom for the ruling by the judge.
Based upon these findings that I have made in this case, I am concluding that pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 2945-37, that the defendant, Ruth R. Miller, is not guilty by reason of insanity. I think that's the only conclusion that can be reached in this case based upon the evidence that's been presented to me. Ruth, after and concluding that you are not guilty by reason of insanity on all 7 counts, aggravated murder under 2903.01C, murder under 2903.02B, and B, felonious assault under 2903.11A1, endangering children, count 4 under 2919.22A and E, domestic violence, counts 5, 6, and 7, all misdemeanors of the first degree under 2919.25A will have the conclusion that the evidence supports in this case, and that is not guilty by reason of insanity.
Shocking to a certain extent, but maybe not so shocking. The only time I've seen successful not guilty by reason of insanity cases are mothers who kill their children. Andrea Yates, Deanna Laney, and now Ruth Miller. Take a look at your screen, folks. We have a missing child who needs your help tonight. This is Amber Rose Dutch, just 15 years old, missing out of Allentown, Pennsylvania since the 24th of February. If you see Amber, pick up the phone, make a call, make a difference. 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the Salisbury Township Police Department in Pennsylvania. Numbers on the screen. Let's see if we can get Amber to a safe place tonight. Don't go anywhere. We have another hour of live true crime. Vinnie Politan Investigates is next. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids.